All right, so obviously Anthony Edwards had an amazing end to last season. He helped get the Minnesota Timberwolves to the Western Conference Finals and had some extremely electric playoff moments. I would argue that he had the most iconic moments of last postseason, and I think he had the best storyline of last postseason. Despite the Celtics winning the title, Anthony Edwards, to me, was like the face of the playoffs last year. Like, just think about what he was able to do from round one up to the Western Conference Finals, where they obviously lost to the Mavericks. He knocked out his idol, Kevin Durant, in dominant fashion. And Anthony Edwards is my generation. I think he's like a year younger than me. A lot of people in my generation believe that Kevin Durant is legitimately the best basketball player, just pure basketball player of all time. Not talking about rings and stuff like that. Kevin Durant is a significant fan favorite of my generation. There are a lot of people, as I said, who believe that he is the most skilled player to ever play this game, being a 7-foot guy just with that large skill set. So Anthony Edwards definitely reflects some of our ideas. Not saying that he thinks he's the GOAT, but Anthony Edwards has said that KD is his idol. To go head to head against his idol and do the things that he did, it was unreal. It was almost, not saying completely, but almost Kobe and Jordan like, where you see this young rising star go up against like an OG NBA legend and multiple time NBA champion. It was something like that. He was just unbelievable. Outscored Durant. He averaged 32 points to Durant's 26. Outscored also Devin Booker, averaging 32 to Booker's 27, and also Bradley Beal. So he outscored three all-star caliber players in that series on the way to leading his team to the second round. And in the second round, they end up beating the defending champion Denver Nuggets, who, in my opinion, was the best team in the league. I did have them as a favorite, as the favorite to end up repeating and winning the championship. I'm not the biggest Nuggets fan, not the biggest Jokic fan, but that team just plays a dominant style of basketball. To see Minnesota's defense stifle them like that at home in Game 7, it was really something to see. And it was just an unbelievable playoff run, and it definitely has us excited about what could be to come in the future for the Timberwolves and also Anthony Edwards. And as I said, this just opens up the notion that Ant could end up being the new face of the game of basketball, which is something that we as fans have been searching for a while. LeBron is the last face of the league, right? There have been amazing players since then, like Steph, there's Luka, there's Nikola Jokic. But in my opinion, in my eyes, when I think of the NBA, I still think of LeBron. Look at Team USA. There's a ton of superstar talent on this team. A lot of guys you can consider as better than him right now, but he is still the face of that team. He is still the face of basketball. So the league is still searching for that next face. Could it be Luka? Could it be Jokic? Could it be Wembanyama? We're just searching for that. And amidst all of those names, here's why I think Anthony Edwards is becoming that guy. Here's why I think he works as the next face of the league. And here's what he has that separates him from a Nikola Jokic and a Luka Doncic and some of those other guys that I just mentioned. One, it is the style in which he plays. So obviously he is an elite level scorer who is just going to continue to get sharp in that category. But also there's this, and here's what made a lot of people fall in love with him last season. He embraces defense. Ant started winning a ton of fans over with his willingness to be a strong on-ball defender. Fans kind of had that notion and perception that the best players don't embrace defense. They don't want to guard the best players anymore. We saw Ant do that a ton during last season. Strategically, is it the best idea for your best guy to guard the best guy on the other end? Probably not. And we saw that with Ant. It kind of hit its limit in the West Finals when he had to match up against Kyrie Irving. We saw that he was completely gassed after game one. But still, my point still stands. He is really competitive on the defensive end to kind of match his offense, and people have just fallen in love with that. That's something that he gives us that Luka Doncic doesn't give us, that Nikola Jokic doesn't really give us. I'm not saying Jokic is a bad defender, but he's not as willing to be a lockdown elite defender like Anthony Edwards is. Case in point, and I was actually at this game, that game where he had that block against, I think, Aaron Nesmith against the Pacers. I remember saying to myself, and my friends were also talking about it, there are a lot of other guys who can't make that play. We were at a time where we were like really comparing Luka and Anthony Edwards against each other. Luka's not making that play, right? Anthony Edwards' willingness to be a defender made him make that play. That was one of the most iconic block shots we've seen over the last couple of seasons. That just speaks to how willing he is to be a great two-way player. And when talking about being a face of the league, this is something that we have to remember. And this is what set LeBron apart from other guys, or even Kobe when he was looked at as a face of the league, and even Jordan. Those guys had this ability to make these iconic athletic plays that are just burned and etched in our memories as fans, right? Athleticism and the ability to make ridiculously athletic over the rim plays is a huge factor with becoming a face of the league. I'm not saying you have to be the most athletic to be the best player in the league, but it's a major factor when being the face of the league. Ant has that. He has made a ridiculous amount of athletic plays, some of the most iconic in the last couple of seasons. I mentioned it before, that block against the Pacers. And also that dunk against John Collins was just ridiculous. Even like in his first couple of seasons, he had some ridiculous plays he made over the rim. He has an unreal knack for just creating these moments based on his athleticism. Think about that dunk he had over KD after just blowing right past Bradley Beal, or also that dunk he had in the conference finals against the Mavericks. He has that ability, and Ja Morant also has this, where he can just create these moments that are just burned in our memories. And then we also have to talk about his personality, which is very key when it comes to making a guy the face of the league. Ant is very vocal about his competitiveness. Think about the sound bites he had during the playoffs and how confident he sounded in his ability. For one, there was that moment where the Timberwolves were trailing in that series against the Nuggets. And I remember he said at the press conference that he told Nuggets players, "We'll see y'all in game 7." And they end up following that up by taking the series to 7 games and beating Denver at home, right? So it's definitely going to be one of those moments we look back at in his career if things end up turning out the way we wanted to, where we're like, man, I remember this happened. This is one of those most iconic Anthony Edwards stories, similar to kind of how we have these moments or these stories about Kobe, right? Or these stories and moments about Larry Bird or Jordan or LeBron, right? That's going to end up being one of those moments we're going to look back at as fans a long time from now if things end up turning out the way they should, or hopefully should, for Anthony Edwards. And then there is this leadership quality he has. He's emerged into this really good glue guy that his teammates can really rally behind. And I find this really funny because I remember people really questioned those intangibles when he was drafted. So obviously he was taken first overall by Georgia, or out of Georgia by the Timberwolves. And I just remember there were a lot of critics kind of pondering about his passion for the game and those sorts of things. And I'm not saying there was like zero merit to those critiques, but seeing him grow into the guy he is now in just 4 years has been amazing. And that is another reason why I think it is ridiculous to overreact to any player so early in their career, especially their rookie season. We're seeing a lot of that happen right now with the Summer League, which I thought was pretty underwhelming this year. You never know what types of leaps certain guys make as far as the tangibles go and also the intangibles. So Anthony Edwards has been off to an electric start so far throughout his career, throughout these 4 years, and he's going to continue to get better. For him, it's just going to be about consistency from a year in, year out standpoint, both on the court and off the court. Off the court stuff can be a huge factor in you being a face of the league guy versus you not being in that category. So, for example, Ja Morant, I considered him as the future face of the league because he was athletic, because he was leading the Grizzlies to successful playoff seasons, but some off the court stuff ended up being a major barrier to him. And as I said, it's not over with for him at all. He still has a major opportunity to get there. But for Ant, as I said, it's going to be about his consistency both on and off the court. And I think he's going to have those things down pat. And also what he does here throughout this Olympic stage is going to be huge. He has the opportunity here to be the best player on the court for Team USA and could lead them to a gold medal. That is also going to really help his case. So I'm excited to see how he continues throughout his career here, but just amazing things we've seen from him overall. And let's see if he's able to follow up on that throughout the summer and also throughout next season for the Timberwolves.